Charles Ungerleider divides his time between the University of British Columbia, where he is professor of the Sociology of Education and the Direction, Evidence, and Policy Research Group, LLP. Charles Ungerleider was Associate Dean for Teacher Education at the University of British Columbia from 1993 to 1998. Then Deputy Minister of Education for British Columbia from 1998 to 2001. He has taught about the principles of teaching, sociology of education, as well as educational governance and politics in Canada. Welcome, Dr. Charles Ungerleider.
I want to bring us full circle to where Julie started us off. Where is Julie? Hi, Julie. She talked about moral stewardship, and she phrased it, and I hope I captured it correctly, talking about the right things in the right way for the right reasons. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk about research and the principle's moral authority. It's unfortunately too often the case that persons who occupy leadership positions fail to recognize that they can't exert leadership by simply resorting to the authority vested in the office that they hold. The best that one can hope to achieve through the invocation of that positional authority is compliance with overt directives. But even with if overt compliance is achieved, it's too often accompanied by covert resistance. So here's the key point. A principle's moral authority is the respect that the principle is accorded by those with whom the principle works as a source of guidance or as an example of proper professional conduct or professional competence. Thus, although they possess formal positional authority, the foundation for a principle's moral authority is the experience and knowledge that she can bring in the guidance of herself and others regarding professional conduct and professional competence. Now, I don't need to tell you that principles' responsibilities are many. While it is certainly applicable to many of those responsibilities, I'd like to focus on the part that research plays in the principle's guidance regarding instructing and assessing students, managing the classroom, pupil behavior, and communicating with parents and other professionals, what I regard as the bread and butter or the primary areas of responsibility in schools. As you know well, I think, over the course of the last century, the knowledge base for education has grown incrementally to the point where now there are significant bodies of knowledge in many domains and many subdomains. Instruction and assessment have received significant attention, and within those areas, domains such as reading, mathematics, science have received great attention. That's what allowed Avis Glaze to talk about Ron Edmonds saying in 1979, "We know all we need to know." I'm not sure I agree with Ron, but his point was a very good one. We know how to address the equity issue. And in any event, the attention to research has been such that it's possible to seek guidance from that accumulated body of evidence in the field of education. Now, it's also the case, and I don't need to tell you that, the principals don't have the time to read and evaluate original research, and many don't have the expertise, frankly, to make the determinations about what's sound and unsound research. They must rely and should rely on distillations and syntheses of research made by others, preferably by others whose techniques for conducting those kinds of syntheses are systematic, transparent, and replicable. Now, there's a variety of sources to which principals might look for guidance with respect to the use of research, including the What Works Clearinghouse, EPI in London, the website of the Canadian Council on Learning that I was affiliated with for some 5 years, John Hattie's book on visible learning, a meta-analysis of in the field of education, and many, many other different sources. Now, you'll notice that I have mentioned research syntheses rather than individual studies. Individual studies are the raw material for research syntheses. Individual studies are generally not a strong foundation for policy or practice decisions. But research syntheses, good research syntheses, are. And it's good research syntheses upon which the principal's guidance should be based. It is in understanding what the evidence says about a topic that organizations such as the BCPVPA can make a significant contribution to its membership. by providing its membership with well-written research syntheses and explanatory notes about the implementation of that particular evidence. Organizations such as BCPVPA can help principals exert their moral authority that derives from being able to understand and apply professional knowledge to improve professional practice. There are also some other things that I think principals should do. They probably are not so much tied with the standards, but I'll come back to the standards in a moment, that are, in addition, ways in which principals can encourage their school staffs and others to use research. Just a number of these. Distribute research syntheses of research that aligns with the school's or the district's goals. Make research presentations part of a regular part of staff agendas, encouraging individual teachers or groups of teachers to make presentations that align with their interests and responsibilities. For example, librarians and technology teachers might present research about some aspect of the use of technology, some that my colleague has just recently cited, for example. English, science, or language teachers might present research about reading across the curriculum, reading in the subject areas. ESL staff might present research about the cognitive benefits of understanding multiple languages or ways to help second language learners who possess different levels of English language proficiency in the classroom. Make research part of newsletters to parents, especially research about the ways in which parents can help to support learning. Use research and communication with staff and parents to establish that research rather than tradition or ideology or fad should be the basis for practice. Groups of administrators, such as those who are assembled here today, working together can synthesize and share research that aligns with school or district goals. And in making presentations to school boards, excluded staff, or to trustees at board meetings. I think principals should set aside, I know this is difficult to say, I'll probably get booed out of the room, should set aside a couple of hours a week to advance their own knowledge of research and to maintain their currency of knowledge pertinent to teaching and learning. Time out. Back to the standards. Given the expanding knowledge base for teaching, to which I referred learning, to both teaching and learning for that matter, it's important to use research to inform practice and to elevate the status of the profession, pardon me, from one that's primarily built on craft knowledge to one that's based on research emanating from a scientific outlook. Research must inform policy and practice. I think the BCPVPA and its members are pivotally situated to influence both policy and practice. Practice through the leadership role that teachers exert in every one of the nearly 1,500 schools in the province, and policy through the influence that they have on their local school boards, influencing superintendents and school boards, and through the provincial organization by influencing governmental policy emanating from Victoria, for example. More about the standards. I believe that the BCPVPA should take the lead in advocating for the currency requirements for all certificated educators. Very important point. That is, currency of requirements to hold one's certification. One should not be certificated for life. One should be certificated for a period of time and have to demonstrate what they are doing professionally in order to maintain that certification. The failure to have currency requirements, quite frankly, negatively affects the professional status of educators. As long as research is not the foremost foundation of policy and practice, educators are going to be vulnerable to the fads, the practices and the policies that are based upon special interests or ideologies that are unlikely to improve student achievement. The failure to use research as the foundation for practice and policy will cause stagnation, perhaps even regression in student achievement, further undermining the confidence in public education and making it much more vulnerable to the next bit of quackery that comes along. I have to overcome my tendency toward reticence, don't I? Research provides guidance for school-level action as well as for the basis for which to respond to board and provincial initiatives. As a professional education association, I think the BC PVPA has an obligation to use its moral authority in support of evidence-informed initiatives and practices. Thanks very much for your attention.